So, what is a kid supposed to do when it's 300 degrees out and not a single cloud in sight? Let me tell you, sitting indoors all day drenching my own sweat is definitely not the answer. Nope, that is what the beach is for. I can picture it now, a sea of hundreds of screaming kids, umbrellas stretched as far as the eye can see, and an abundance of bologna and cheese sandwiches. There is truly nothing like a good old beach day. You hop out of the car with your trusty floaties, desperately trying to make it to the water before the scorching sand sears your feet to the bone. Now let me take you back to a very particular beach day. It was the 4th of July weekend, and the beach was swarming with people. I sat down next to my friend, munching on our lunch and playing some Super Mario Land on his Game Boy. Out of the corner of my eye, though, I noticed our local sheriff was sprinting down the beach, waving his arms like crazy. All of a sudden, all the parents stood up and started to whisper amongst each other. Curious, I glanced over at my friend to see if he had noticed, but he was too busy smacking around some Koopa Troopers on his Game Boy. And then it happened. The entire beach erupted in horrifying screams. Naturally, as a 7-year-old boy in the 80s, I leapt to my feet and set out to investigate. Parents were rushing out of the water, dragging their terrified children along beside them. And out of nowhere, a huge red explosion of water. Legs and arms were flying in all different directions. Heads and torsos started to wash up on the beach. The scene was nothing short of pure chaos. People were screaming, kids were crying, and then... Alright, jokes aside, if you were to ask me about my favorite summer movie, one that definitely stands out near the top, of course, is Jaws. I mean, come on, it's such a fantastic and popular movie that someone had to make a video game based on it, right? Jaws on the NES was released back in November 1987. It was developed by West One and published by everyone's favorite company, LGN. Now, from what I can gather, this was actually the first game that LGN ever published, and to be honest, it was one of their better ones. Here's the thing though, the game has absolutely nothing to do with the first Jaws movie, besides Jaws himself. All the gameplay and plot elements are taken from Jaws: The Revenge, the 4th movie in the franchise, and arguably the worst one, at least in my opinion. Now, is Jaws really as terrible of a game as people make it out to be? Or does it just have a bad rep because it's from LJN? Well, I'll be honest with you, when I was a kid, I actually enjoyed this game. The graphics were impressive, the controls were pretty smooth, and even though it was a short game, it had plenty of action in it. It seemed like everyone I knew actually had a copy of it, but there actually might be a reason for that, and I'll get to that in a moment. The gameplay in Jaws was quite simple. You had an overworld where you sailed back and forth between 2 islands, docking at the ports to power up. And how did you get these power-ups? Well, conch shells, of course. In Jaws, there is 3 types of enemies: jellyfish, stingrays, and smaller sharks. Each time you defeat one of them, you have a chance for a shell to drop, with the sharks guaranteeing a drop. All of this action took place during the underwater scenes. And how do you get to these underwater scenes? While sailing on the overworld map, you have a chance to randomly run into things, but basically what it is a random encounter, sending you into the side-scrolling part of the game. Now, during your underwater adventure, this is where you do most of your killing and collecting items. So now I don't know if it's completely random or it's set, but you spend a little bit of time underwater and then after a bit, you end up back at the overworld. There is also a bonus stage. In the bonus stage, you control a seaplane, and well, actually when I mean control, you just press the A button and drop bombs, or what kind of look like cannonballs. So, what are you trying to hit with them? Maybe Jaws? Nope. Smaller sharks? Not even close. You're trying to kill jellyfish. Now I remember sucking at the bonus stages and they would piss me off quite a bit. But if you got plenty of hits on the jellyfish, you could actually rack up some shells. Now during the underwater part, you play as a scuba diver with a semi-automatic harpoon. Now who the hell would want to try to fight a 20-foot great white shark with a stick that shoots other sticks? Now Jaws can appear in the overworld section at any point of your playthrough. If he hits your boat, you will be sent again to the side-scrolling combat part. Once back with Scuba Steve and Jaws is in the water, at the bottom right of your screen you'll notice his health bar. At first you can shoot him over and over again and barely even scratch him. Well, that's what the power-ups are for. Now each time you go to a port, the shell's cost will increase. For your first journey across the ocean, you will get a receiver. It makes a sound when you're sailing around, letting you know if Jaws is close. You remember those things called a speak and spell? Yeah, that's basically what it is. Now this thing is absolutely pointless, because when Jaws is close, you can see his fins sticking right out of the water anyway, and that's how you avoid him. Now besides your basic attack, there is a few other power-ups. Sometimes after killing an enemy, a crab will float to the bottom, and if you chase him down and get it, it will increase your movement speed until you die. Now if you venture around enough, you will find yourself a mini-sub occasionally popping up on screen. Now I used to love getting the sub. It shoots two different kinds of projectiles, one being the torpedoes that you shoot in a straight line like your harpoon, and the second being bombs that shoot out in an arc, making it easier to hit enemies underneath you. It also acts kind of like a shield, where if you get hit, you'll just turn right back into Scuba Steve and continue on your way. Speaking of getting hit, you only get 3 lives and there is no other way of getting any extra ones. Once you die, Jaws' health will fill back up and you will lose 1 level of power and your receiver, but don't worry, a few more shells and you'll be right back in business. Once you get to about power level 6 and above, you're ready to take on Jaws. Well, there really isn't any reason to go any higher than that, besides once you get to the max level of 9, all you get is an extra strobe for the end of the game, but we'll get to that later. Now you're at level 6 and you're ready to take on the beast himself. Slamming the old B button as fast as you can, jellyfish are flying all over the place, and the stingrays are trying to spear right through you. Sweating and panicking, you watch as Jaws' life bar drops further and faster than ever before. 4 bars left. 2 bars left. Almost dead. Got him. But then the screen freezes. And what happens next? Well, you're sent into a sort of third-person view looking over the bow of your boat. The idea here is to line up the front of the boat with Jaws' fin. With the right distance and your accuracy spot on, you press the A button to use a strobe, sending Jaws flying out of the water. At this point, it's time for this fish to take its final blow. Once out of the water, pushing B will send your boat lunging forward, stabbing Jaws right in the chest. This part can be a bit of a challenge as it requires perfect distance and timing. Take a look at this yellow line here. See it right here? This little yellow line? You see it? Once Jaws' fin reaches that line and he's all lined up, quickly activate the strobe and make your move. It is very important to wait until you see the white underbelly before lunging at him. Patience is key in this situation. There is no time limit here, so you can take as much time as you need. By default, you only have 3 strobes. If you run out of them, now you're just sent back to the map as Scuba Steve having to defeat Jaws again. After successfully sending Jaws to the bottom of the deep blue sea, you'll be treated to a satisfying end scene, flying off in your little seaplane into the sunset. I actually like this end scene. The colors are vibrant, and considering it's an early NES title, the graphics are actually pretty good. So is Jaws really as bad as people claim it to be? I don't think so. It's a good game to casually play for about 20-30 minutes. In fact, I find myself playing it a few times a year. And to be honest, I have a deep affection for this game, and there's an emotional connection behind it. But let me explain. The movie Jaws is set on the fictional island of Amity, but the actual filming location was the island of Martha's Vineyard, which is located 3 miles off the coast of Massachusetts, and coincidentally enough, that's where I'm from. Having spent about 90% of my life there, including my entire childhood, it's no wonder why I have so much love for this game. In fact, as I'm recording this video, I even have a small glass bottle on my desk filled with the sand from the beach known as Jaws Bridge. And as I mentioned earlier, I have a sneaky suspicion that's why everyone I knew had a copy of this game. Whenever I start it up, it immediately brings me right back to my childhood. I can vividly recall the carefree days of playing in the warm sand, building sandcastles, and trying to time the big waves so you could dive underneath them. I can also vividly remember the wonderful times snorkeling along the shoreline, chasing down marine life and finding all the hidden treasures that were on the ocean floor. Jaws truly captures the essence of those magical memories. What makes it even more special is that I have a personal connection to the franchise. I had friends and family that were actually in the movie. See him right there? See that little guy? That's my cousin Chris. He played one of Brody's sons. So could this personal connection be the reason why I derive so much enjoyment from the game? Perhaps, but beyond that, Jaws offers a captivating game experience that shouldn't be overlooked. One of the standout features of the game is its remarkable smooth gameplay. The controls feel smooth and responsive, allowing for seamless navigation and interaction with the environment. Whether you're swimming through the depths of the ocean or engage in battle with Jaws, the mechanics are tuned to deliver a satisfying gameplay. Jaws doesn't overstay its welcome, providing short yet impactful gameplay sessions that leave you wanting more. In conclusion, if you haven't had an opportunity to play Jaws before, I wholeheartedly urge you to disregard any negative opinion and embark on this adventure yourself. The haters may try to dissuade you, but by experiencing the game firsthand, you'll be able to form your own opinion and potentially discover a hidden gem. So, take a leap of faith, dive into the world of Jaws, and let it transport you to a nostalgic realm where childhood memories and exciting gameplay intertwine. I am Retro Joe, and I am grateful for your company on this thrilling journey through the past. As always, I look forward to our future adventures together, and don't forget, as you dive into new experiences, always remember to... Smile, you son of a...